Only 13 states in the United States of America allow you to vote without having to provide a form of physical identification. Voter ID laws have specifically been made to target certain individual voters, and they could be one of your friends or your families. These voter ID laws are specifically targeted for people who generally vote a Democratic ticket. Today, I'll explain to you why voter ID laws are created, why they go after these certain type of demographics, and what ways we can do to reform the voting system than undermine it currently. Back in 2016, the San Diego Tribune reported that Professor Zoltan Hajian, a USD political scientist, made a report that voter ID laws had a clear effect on people of color and people who consider themselves liberal. It has been shown to disenfranchise voters, even white voters that align themselves conservatives, but not as much as a liberal voter and a person of color. The researchers found that people of color dropped in voter participation by 4.7% in general elections where states had voter ID laws. Now, this graph will show you that clearly, as white voter participation pretty much stays the same without photo ID laws or with them. But the ones with photo ID laws, you can slowly see participation drops through mixed race, Asian Americans. For Black people tends to be more, though, in a primary election than general, and it really affects the Hispanic population. What they've done since losing 2020 in the state of Georgia, they've enacted laws where now they've pretty much shut down all voting drop boxes, where say you fill out your absentee ballot and you drop it in the mail. They've pretty much cut it to about 10%. You need a physical form of identification along with your signature that matches your current address just to get a mail-in ballot now, which makes that really hard for a lot of people, especially if they've changed addresses. And then you would have to change your ID, and that costs money, obviously. So again, it's going after poorer communities and people of color who tend to vote more Democratic than Republican to stifle their vote. The New York Times also reported that they wanted to make it really hard to vote by mail. They go into detail about how about 12 different things get made and how they're trying to do that to hurt even independent voters that may vote Democratic. And in the state of Texas last month, the Governor Abbott just made SB1, it's called. And a lot of this bill is targeted towards Harris County, which is the hub of Houston, Texas, basically, and the surrounding areas. And what they were doing during the pandemic for voting was they had drive-through voting, which was 24 hours, and drop boxes everywhere. Now the governor, with the new law, eliminated all that. And now from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., you can go to a poll, but they've pretty much eliminated drive-through voting. And by doing that, it was reported that 53% of people of color use those 24-hour voting boxes, clearly because the pandemic and people were afraid of getting sick at the time. And that's important because the state of Texas was only won by 3% by the Republican candidates. So as the demographics change and more people move into the state, they tend to be more liberal. That's a way of them hurting the vote so that they can still win elections. So in conclusion, what we're seeing with voter ID is that the Republican Party are using this law to detract liberals or Democrats or even independent voters getting their votes actually counted. And it's been going on for centuries, over a century. Whether it was you had to take a literacy test, all kinds of different things back then. And now it's just another form of when they lose elections, they tend to change the rules. So what I want everybody to do as you're watching this is study your voting laws, keep yourself educated, keep your family educated, your friends who may not follow politics like that. That way, the next time when stuff like this goes, you can organize and be able to actually make your vote count, which is the most important thing.